Hi everyone, it's Jessica, and the Makers with Heart are going to be focusing on digital art this month for our video collaboration. I have decided to create a one-page scrapbooking layout for this photo here, and I will tell you a little bit behind the story of it later because it's kind of a funny story. And I'm going to use the Backyard Bliss paper collection from Close to My Heart. So I pulled some of the Picture My Life cards. And then I've also cut this here. Now we are focusing on digital art this month, and I really loved this page in the core catalog. I thought that that was beautiful, and so I'm going to use it as my inspiration. And then the piece of digital art that I'm going to focus on is this one here called the Floral Border. It's a really pretty cut. It's definitely pretty delicate, so you can't cut it too small, I'm going to guess. But I did make mine probably about, I want to say 10.5 inches wide. And then it is going to go across the middle of my page. I'm going to model my page on the one that is in the catalog. So like I said, I pulled some of those things from Backyard Bliss, and then I've also got a piece of white daisy cardstock, nectarine, and papaya. Now I've already gutted out my piece of papaya cardstock because I am going to create a double mat. And I don't know, I just have a hard time using a full sheet when so much of it is going to get hidden. So same thing with that nectarine piece of cardstock. A lot of it is going to get hidden by the white daisy. So this is how I gut my papers out if I know that I can save a little bit of them that aren't going to be seen. I just basically create a little frame and cut out the center that way. And so this will be the double mat behind my piece of white daisy. So it'll go like this and then layer up on that papaya piece like that. Now when I put this on, what I'm thinking I'm going to do is, like I said, model on that page in the catalog. So I'm keeping it next to me and just kind of looking over at it. It looks like they also use papaya and nectarine. And then I am going to change up the pattern paper that they show, and I'm using this Backyard Bliss instead. So I've cut myself a little 1/2 inch strip to go at the top, and then at the bottom, I cut this other piece. I can't remember how wide it is, but at first I'm thinking it's probably going to be too big. I do end up cutting it down later, but I figured to cut larger than smaller first, right? And then my photo is going to go here, and then these are some of the pocket cards, the Picture My Life cards that go along with this paper collection. I thought maybe I could do a little bit of layering behind my photo for that. So that's the plan. All right, so I pulled out my coordinating ink pads that go along with these papers that I've got going in my project. And I've decided that I'm going to do a little something to that cut file first, because I don't know if it's just because it's such a delicate cut or if it's the blade on my Cricut, but definitely I could see kind of a lot of like white parts to the white core that is in the cardstock. And you know, it was like a really fussy sort of cut. So I wanted to cover that up. So I grabbed my foam blending tool and my Sage ink, and all I'm doing is just going around that cut file very carefully and just kind of pouncing it and twisting it and inking it up a little bit. I'm not trying to put even ink coverage over it. In fact, I'm kind of okay with the fact that it's not, because it just gives it a little bit more dimension. But after treating it that way, it definitely does cover up that white core, the little bits that kind of show from some of those really fine detailed cuts. So that's what I did with the cut file. And then whenever I do gut out my pages and I create something like this, I find it easier to put the glue on the frame rather than on the back of, in this case, the white daisy, because otherwise I end up putting glue in the wrong spot. So I just ran my tape runner down on that nectarine, and then that way I can lay the white over it and know that it's exactly where it needs to go. And now I will bring those pattern papers from the Backyard Bliss collection back in. Like I said, that top one is a 1/2 inch strip. This bottom one, when I lay it down, I am definitely thinking that it is too big, and so I will off camera cut that down just a little bit before I go through and edge distress it. So since I had my foam tool and my ink sitting right there, I just did it that way. Normally I just swipe my ink pad direct to paper, but I had it out, so I edge distress with my foam tool instead on this one. And now I've got like the basic part of the layout ready to go, and I can start fussing a little bit with the photo and how I'm going to layer up some of those Picture My Life cards behind it. So this photo was actually just from a few weeks ago, and I have apparently trained my husband very well because he was outside in the yard with my son, and my husband had borrowed a friend's tractor to do some work around our yard. And my son sat there and he snapped a picture and sent it to me. So I'm like, good job. You can tell you're married to a scrapbooker, and that's something that I would definitely want a picture of. But when I saw this picture, I knew immediately what I wanted the layout to be. So we recently moved, well, it's been about 2 years, out to the country, and our neighbor next to us has chickens. And ever since we have moved out to this house, my son, who was 3 at the time that we moved, he has always yelled the same thing at our neighbor's chickens, specifically the rooster, because I'm not really a country girl, and I was always under the impression that roosters only crowed at dawn, like when the sun was rising, but our neighbor's rooster crows all day long. At the most random times, you can always hear him. And whenever he does, my son will just yell, "Wrong time, rooster," and he does it constantly. So it has happened so much that now even the rest of us, like my husband and I, if we happen to be outside and hear the rooster, like we can't help ourselves. We say it too. We're like, "Wrong time, rooster." And I have really wanted to document that memory before he grows out of it. But I didn't really have a picture per se to go along with that memory. And so I had always kind of thought, well, one day I'm just going to send my son out to the front yard and just take a random picture and then let that kind of be the picture that goes, with the story. And when my husband had sent me this photo of him sitting with the tractor, I thought, that's it. That's my rooster picture. And that's what I'm going to do. So I was really excited to make this page. I've had it kind of in my head for, ever since we moved to this house. It's something that I wanted to preserve that memory. And it's just a cute thing that he does. And yeah, so if you are a country person and maybe you can tell us, is that normal? Are roosters supposed to crow all day long? Or I don't know. It just seems weird to me. So, all right. So I kind of fussed around a little bit with those Picture My Life cards. I'm still not very good at kind of layering. That's definitely a scrapbooking skill that I'm still working on. So I decided to kind of set it aside for a little bit and turn instead just to gluing down this cut file because I knew it was going to take me a little while to put some adhesive on the back. I'm using my Barely Art glue with that fine applicator tip, which works perfectly for this cut file. I'm not even trying to put glue on every single inch of this cut file, but I'm definitely hitting the outer edges and then kind of dotting along some of the inside parts, just enough to make sure that when I lay it down, it's all going to stick and not come up off the page anywhere. And that definitely seemed to be enough glue. And so I just got a little bit there. I used my rub and remove eraser just to kind of clean it up a little bit. But I probably could have centered it a little bit more, but I didn't want to fuss with it. I was worried that I would rip it if I did. So, okay, I'm back to those cards, trying to figure out my layering here. I really want to use these two. I like how the one has that pine color and it's darker and it kind of grounds the photo a little bit. And then the other 4x6 Picture My Life card has a bunch of chickens on it. And I knew if I didn't use it on this layout, I probably would never use it. And it was just so perfect. So I think I'm going to do a little something kind of like this. I will edge distress them with some pine ink because especially that chicken piece, it just is not standing out enough against the white background, even with that pine Picture My Life card behind it. So doing this definitely helps make it stand out a little bit more. So this is how I normally edge distress my papers. I just swipe the ink pad direct to paper. I decide to keep them relatively straight and put them on like this rather than, turning them cockeyed. And so I'm going to do it this way. That way I can still see a lot of that chicken paper because it's so perfect for this page. I wanted to have some of it kind of hanging out of the bottom. All right. And then, of course, realize that some of it's not quite straight. It's so irritating when that happens, right? And you just can't leave it because it'll always bother you. So I had to pull up my photo and fix that a little bit, straighten things up. All right, so this is the coordinating sticker sheet that goes along with this paper pack, and there are a bunch of cute little chicken stickers on there. And again, I'm like, if I don't use them on this layout, when will I ever use them? And so my plan is to just kind of place them around the page. One thing that I do like to do with stickers is to first take the adhesive stickiness off of them using that anti-static pouch. It just has like a powder in it. And that way I can move my stickers around my page before I commit to where they go. And also, if I'm going to add any foam tape behind them, it takes that adhesive off of them. That way, you know, when they're in your book and they get squished to the page, you don't have like parts of the sticker stuck flat to the page and the other parts popped up on foam tape. So it just kind of helps to remove that adhesive there. And then up here in this top left corner is where I am going to stamp out my title. So I'm attempting to center it. So this is something that I often do, is I will kind of write out what the word is and then count the letters and figure out which one is in the center. And then also leave it sitting in front of me so I don't accidentally misspell it, especially if I'm like not starting with the first letter, but I'm starting with that middle letter. And I'm not going, you know, in order. It helps me to make sure that I don't mess up my layout. So I'll do most of the stamping off camera because I have to put my head right over top of what I'm doing to make sure I'm getting it down right. So I won't make you watch the back of my head, but I'm going to stamp out Wrong Time Rooster. And I use two different alphabet stamp sets. One is the pennant banner on top, and then the other one is the farmhouse alphabet on the bottom. My pencil marks are still on there, but I'm gonna let that ink really soak into the paper and dry for a while first before I use my rub and remove eraser to get off my pencil lines because I don't want to smear my ink. And then I didn't do a very good job of centering it, so I feel like I still need a little something down there underneath the rooster just to kind of offset that title. And so I found on another stamp set that is called Taking It All In, I have a little stamp on there that says, here's the story. So I stamped that in sage ink and I kind of put it more over to the right, and I like the way that that balances out the title. And then on that same Taking It All In stamp set, I grabbed a couple of tiny stamps that are just some like little paint splatter kind of stamps, and I stamped those in sage ink around the outside of my floral cluster, or my floral border, sorry. And so now it's time to figure out where those cute little chickens are going to go. That one up at the top by Wrong Time Rooster that is pecking at the ground, it seems to fit perfectly there because of the diagonal of the chicken. So I kind of think about putting a different one there, but I'm like, nope, this guy, he belongs here. This is clearly where he needs to go. And then I will scatter the other two around. I'm trying to keep that visual triangle in mind whenever I add my stickers or embellishments, and that is definitely something that has helped me in my scrapbooking. So I do put all of my chickens on some foam tape just to make them stand out a little bit. And so you can see here I'm using some of the little dots. They were the perfect size for that. And put that there. Okay, and then I've also off camera used one of my journaling stamps to stamp some lines down there where I will write the story of Wrong Time Rooster. And now it's been a little while, so I feel like it's a safe time to take my rub and remove eraser. And I just kind of, I don't go over the stamped letters themselves, but rather in between them, wherever I can see that pencil. And that rub and remove eraser just takes it up beautifully. It really does. So much better than the eraser on the pencil itself. Okay, so I want to do a little bit more embellishing. So I grabbed my, I think this is my papaya shimmer trim, and I just cut a little piece and I'm going to put it over the top of my photo here. And then since I have that there, I decide that I need to add some elsewhere on the page as well. So I am going to later put some down at the bottom underneath that bottom chicken. But I also have sitting on my desk, these are the little dots that go along with the Crisp Air paper pack, which is not the same one that I'm using on this project, but some of the colors are the same. So what I do is I grab some of the hearts that are in that dark green pine color, and I scatter those around where my clustered, or they're not really very clustered, but where my embellishments are in those 3 points. So basically by the chickens, and I just put them around, and I think that those work really well. They're very cute. And then like I said, I thought I needed that shimmer trim elsewhere as well, so I put it underneath that bottom chicken. And at this point, I'm kind of staring at it, but I'm thinking nope, that's going to be it. I think I'm going to be done. All right, I really love this layout. Like I said, it's one that I've been planning on making for the last 2 years. I just was waiting for that right picture in order to capture that memory. So I hope that you guys have enjoyed. There are other videos from my friends in the Makers with Heart group, and they are all showing different digital art pieces from close to my heart. So make sure that you check all of their links out down below as well. Thank you so much for coming by today and watching. Happy crafting. Bye.